we bring you this special webinar, which is presented by Businessworld Education in association with Businessworld. The topic for today is career opportunities with US CPA. I must just put in a little context about CPA, which is the Certified Public Accountant. It's the title of qualified accountants in numerous countries around the world, especially the English-speaking countries, and is generally equivalent to the title of chartered accountant that we know in India. And we are talking about the career opportunities that people can look at, the aspirants can look at, and we have an eclectic panel. Let me introduce our esteemed speakers. We have with us Mr. Vinod Gupta, CA. He has been the secretary to the Fiscal Laws Committee of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and he is a veteran with 30 years of experience and a visiting faculty at WIRC of ICAI. Welcome, sir, to this discussion. We have also with us Mr. Aziz Tayyabi. He's the Director International for Becker Professional Education. He has helped to develop and launch countless professional training programs across the world. Welcome, Mr. Tayyabi, to this panel. We also have with us Mr. Amit Sachdeva, leader and partner EY Global Telecommunication Advisory. He has also advised and delivered global transformation programs for telecom clients in the US, Middle East, Australia, and New Zealand, as well as Southeast Asia. Welcome, sir. We have Mr. Anil Ahuja, founder BP Tuition. Mr. Ahuja has been associated with various highly rated companies and funds and has previously served on multiple boards, including Adani Enterprises, among others. We also have Mr. Siddharth Talwar, who's a renowned chartered accountant. Mr. Talwar has also been an invitee to the National Advisory Committee on Accounting Standards, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and many more esteemed places and organizations. We also have Mr. Samir Malik, Associate Partner, Grant Thornton, Bharat LLP. Mr. Malik is an associate partner there and has over 14 years of experience in working with clients across sectors. We also have with us Mr. Saurav Banerjee, co-founder and MD My Take Group. Welcome, Mr. Banerjee. And also Mr. S. Ravi, GM World LLP founder and managing partner, Ravi Rajan and Co. Welcome, sir. And Chairman, TFCI, and former Chairman, BSE. Welcome, sir, to this panel. And we also have Dr. Anurag Batra, as he's the host and moderator. He's the Chairman and Editor-in-Chief and my boss at Businessworld and exchangeformedia.com. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. If we can bring all the esteemed panelists in one view and get the PowerPoint presentation for a while, maybe bring it a little later. Can we?
Anurag, do you want me to put the presentation down for now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll do
that. And Mr. Sachdeva, I didn't want to start with it, but this is about career opportunities with US CPA. Our senior editorial colleague, Mr. Rohel Amin, introduced everyone. But let me tell you, these are stalwarts. Anybody who's done chartered accountancy in India, ask them about Mr. Vinod Gupta. He can tell you he's the god of tax. Okay? I have no other way to describe that. Mr. Ahuja, with his years of 3 decades of investing, he's a veteran investor and he's seen entrepreneurs, companies, enterprises of many shapes and sizes. Mr. S. Ravi, apart from being a chartered accountant and running his CA firm, which is very large by Indian standard, he's been the past chairman of the Bombay Stock Exchange. He's the current chairman of the Tourism Finance Corporation of India, and again a stalwart. Possibly his understanding of financial services and banking is second to none in the country. He advised the government in many occasions, advised finance ministers. So, you know, for all our viewers, I want to tell you that everybody on this panel, we have a balance of wisdom and we have the balance of more wisdom from young people. They say if you have to learn from, you know, wise and older people what not to do, and learn from younger people what to do. So I think we have both of you. You can tell people what not to do in their careers. Today we are talking about careers in the backdrop of Corona. And Corona has made sure all of us have to reskill. We have to add skills, and qualification and learning matter more than before. So getting a CPA skill, maybe that that edge to your career that will get you the next job or get you the next raise and make you more relevant for the post-COVID economy. Let me start with Mr. Vinod Gupta. Mr. Gupta, you set up VG Learning and you co-founded 88 Tuition with Mr. Ahuja, and you brought CPA to India. Tell us, how do you see the landscape changing, and why is CPA so relevant to, having as a degree? Why is it relevant to have a CPA degree? How does it make you stand apart?
Thank you, Anurag. At the outset, let me welcome you all to the Star Study Evening, where we have the national stars and international stars. So internationally, we have Mr. Anil Ahuja from Singapore, Mr. Aziz Tayabi from Backers, US. He's based in
London.
And nationally, we have Mr. Amit Sachdeva. He's a senior partner at Ernst & Young. He's heading the Global Telecom division at Ernst & Young. We have Mr. S. Ravi, a very senior chartered accountant and a well-known figure in India, formerly being the chairman of the BSE, Bombay Stock Exchange. Mr. Siddharth Talwar, thank you. And Mr. Samir Malik and Mr. Saurabh Banerjee, thank you very much. And of course, Dr. Anurag Batta, thank you for hosting this program. So CPA, you will see the world is changing because of COVID. And now Amit, I think, will take up this issue. I think let Amit take up why CPA is becoming more relevant to India.
We had Siddharth coming in the last. I just also want to tell you briefly about Mr. Saurabh Banerjee. Mr. Saurabh Banerjee did his chartered accountancy, got a job. He has a story. But more importantly, he worked with NDTV for 16 years. For 14 years, he was the group CFO and a board member. And then he became CEO of NDTV for almost 2 years. And he's currently a partner with Kalari Capital, a position that he'll relinquish in December. And he has founded a media tech company called MyTech. So he's a financial, he understands the IPO of NDTV, the fundraise for NDTV, Saurav did. So really, and he'll tell you about the story on the history of money. And you're right, Mr. Sachdeva, we have all ears and eyes. Over to you. I just want to tell you, Mr. Sachdeva, I keep saying that PowerPoint presentations are used by people who are neither powerful nor have a point of view. But Mr. Amit Sachdeva is an exception. So he is powerful and he has a point of view which will make sure your career blossoms. So over to you, Mr. Sachdeva.
Thanks, Anurag, and thanks, Vinod sir. So just to kind of I would like to let me thank Mr. Vinod Gupta. At least I have studied from him as a student, and as a chartered accountant, I think I owe a lot to him. But more importantly, on today's subject, I think when it comes to CPA, I think especially in the last 10 to 12 years, the importance of CPA or the US education in India is far more than it used to be earlier. And there are few key reasons for that. Obviously, one is the liberalization and the globalization of the economy. So I just want to share, and these slides are more as anchor. Like Anurag said, presentations are not the best way to discuss, and I can't agree more with him.
But you're an exception. You kept it very short and very clean. I think it will aid the discussion. So thank you for doing that.
So I think from a CPA perspective, and if I straight jump into the topic from a career opportunities perspective, I think there are 3 or 4 key areas in which we see a lot of demand. And I would say this demand is accelerated, especially in the last 4 or 5 months. And looking at various businesses which I advise, there are certain businesses which are cyclical or which are uncyclical, to this COVID situation, the demand for CPA, I would say, is uncyclical, that most of the economies in the world probably are seeing a downtrend, but for demands of CPA in these businesses going much, much higher. And what are the reasons for that? One of the key reasons for that is today, I think most of the organizations have realized it doesn't make a difference if a person is working out of US, Canada, or any other part of the world. So due to that, the companies are looking at using the talent or skills which exist in India, and to utilize that skills, obviously they need an appropriate qualification also, and CPA is an important qualification for some of these companies. So if I have to categorize these companies, they would be in the 4 categories. Obviously, Big Four, you know, all of you know about them. They are the large audit firms. Now they also have consulting divisions. And in total, I think the Big Four have set up their own, what they call as with different names, global delivery centers or shared service centers. In total, they have more than 40,000 people in India, which they have hired over the last few years. And I would say easily 30 to 35% of them serve the assurance practice across the globe. And within assurance, I think more than 75% of them are serving the US clients. And I think they would be looking at this growth even much going higher, 30 to 33% a year. And one of the key challenges they have been facing is the number of CPAs they can hire, qualified CPAs in India. So I think the more CPAs, the faster they would grow and the faster they would move the assurance work to India. So that's one big category. The second category, obviously the mid-size audit firms, those are again ramping up very fast. But more importantly, I think if I move to the next slide, it is the GCC. I think this is a sector which probably a lot of us have not thought about. What it is called as global captive centers or global shared service centers. In India, there are more than 1,100 GCCs. And interestingly, a large part of them is in Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, Noida, Gurgaon. So there are 4 or 5 centers which have roughly got these 1,100. And out of the 500 Fortune 500 companies, 98% of them are part of this 1,100 companies. So 98% of the Fortune 500 companies already have set up their GCCs in India. And within GCCs, what you would find is there are 3 functions which really move to locations like India. One is F&A, which is finance and accounting. Second is HR, and third is IT. So as part of finance and accounting, they need qualified CPAs, and they're not able to move a lot of assurance audit work because they don't have enough number of CPAs in India. So as we start to see more CPAs, at least I believe for my clients as well as the companies which are not my clients, it's going to be a boom for them because they can move a lot of work to India. Also, what we see is after these people having worked in India for a few years, they actually move to senior roles in US itself. So to me, this is probably going to be one of the biggest areas for hiring of CPAs in the country, or a career option for a lot of you who are doing CPA. And the last area, which is very critical, if we really move forward, is in terms of automation of audit. I don't know how many of you have really seen that in the last few years, most of the organizations, the Big Four or the mid-sized CA firms, they're looking at building platforms to convert the audit function, especially the routine audit functions, to automation. And to automate this, they're building platforms. Now, while you're building these platforms, you need qualified CPAs who have the knowledge of assurance as a function, how it is operated, what are the rules, what are the regulations. And again, to do that, you need qualified CPAs. Just to give you my own experience, I started as a chartered accountant, but I've been working on management consulting, and I started helping companies in building softwares like SAP, which today everybody uses. So similarly, now the assurance companies need these kind of softwares where they need a qualified CPAs who can help in building these uh, building these platforms. With that, Anurag, at least I believe there can't be a better time than today for a qualified CPA to look for opportunities in India or Southeast Asian countries, where we have a lot of captive centers as well as a lot of global companies opening their operations. So it's a perfect time in my view. Anurag, over to you.
I was instructed to mute myself, and everyone, if we can get the presentation away and get all the esteemed guests and speakers that we have, stalwarts in their own domains, can we get them fully on the screen? Mayank and team and everyone in team. Can we get all of them on the screen and get the presentation away? Amit, you'll have to remove the presentation. Yes, thank you so much, Amit, for doing that. Amit, you said a fantastic context. I was in a business school 26 years back, but what you laid out today could be a career guidance for me or young professionals. You've laid out beautifully how the context are changing and how various corporations are recruiters of talent, kind of remodeling, and what are the opportunities coming out of them. So thank you for setting the context. Mr. Vinod Gupta, you heard Amit say what he said. Tell us, why do you believe, see, you've been a tax teacher for all your time and the best in best. When I tell a CA I know you, he looks at me with respect. So, and some, dare I say, jealousy that I know you well. But there's a lot of respect out there for what you did and what you did. Why do you believe a CPA is needed? While Amit clearly laid out why it's needed, tell us, why do you think a CPA is needed just now?
See, as Amit rightly said, that a demand for the CPAs is growing like anything. And because of COVID, the space does not matter. Whether you're working from America, UK, India, it hardly makes sense. Singapore, of course. Yeah. So now more and more companies will like to shift their operations to India, because India, the Indians are very hardworking. And I tell you, if it's an Indian chartered accountant coupled with a degree of CPA, it's nothing like it. And even if you're simply a CPA alone, then it will make a difference. I was talking to Amit last night. He said 1,100 shared services centers are coming to India, have come to India. And he said, like companies like GlaxoSmithKline and Pfizer, etc., they all have the shared service center in India. And in case we require, each of the centers require at least 4 to 5 CPAs. And if you can see the number, 4 to 5 CPAs into 1,100 becomes 5,500. And I think the backers may be answering this question. The US won't be producing 5,500 CPAs in a year, I believe so. So I think the entire CPA demand will be too much in India. And yes, the job prospects, the financial prospects will be good. And as Amit said, that once you are a CPA, you can definitely move to the organizations abroad at the higher level, the management level. So I foresee a lot of traction for CPAs, lot of job opportunities, and even I believe they can practice in India, in the sense they can use the license in India and sign the tax statements and other statements sitting in US, sitting in India for US. So demand for CPAs will be enormous.
Thank you so much.
It will outlive the supply.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta. And coming from you, who's respected for what you've done in the past, and the CPA background, which is Becker. It's a great, and then you brought in 88 Tuition and Grant Thornton. So it's a great collaborative relationship. So it only enhances, it's like an alliance to provide jobs, to provide reskilling. At this point, let me bring in Mr. Aziz Tayebji, who's the International Director of Becker's and has seen how CPA has added value to careers of finance professionals. Mr. Tayebji, your opening comments.
Thank you, Doctor. And I'll leave it up to you whether you allow me to use my PowerPoint or not. I'll keep it straightforward anyway. Let me know if I'm to use that. But look, I think just to reiterate what everyone else has said here, I think there's two or three very important trends. I think one is that that move towards using India, and this is really important what I'm about to say. There was a time maybe when India was seen as the ideal uh, destination to achieve cost arbitrage. Now, and this is a really important point, Mr. Gupta touched on it. Now we are there, companies coming to India, not for cost, but for talent arbitrage. That is the single most important thing. You mentioned the hardworking talent, skill, intelligence, all of those things is why companies are coming to India. And, I could easily see in a time, 4 or 5 years time, maybe sooner, you will find that like the audit for JP Morgan will be done from Pune, Gurgaon, Mumbai rather than New York, because you've got such talent here. You've got all the big, JP Morgan, all these big organizations have their financial operations and underlying here in India, as do all of the big accounting firms, the Grant Thorntons, the EYs, or whatever else it is. So it's really talent that's the key thing here, hardworking talent, which is why organizations are here. And another point about supply demand, the US CPA in the US itself, it generates a lot more than 5,000, by the way. There's a lot more than that CPAs in the US, but the reality is it's not growing there. The US CPA qualification is growing far faster internationally. And India is actually the fastest growing significant market. Of course, you can go from 5 to 10, and that's a big number. But if you're going from like 2,000 to 4,000, which is where India is going over the last 2-3 years, that really shows where the demand is for that qualification.
Thank you, Mr. Ajit Taibji. They say brevity is the soul of wit. I would also say brevity is the soul of making a point. You really did it well and very credibly. I just want to ask you, just to give there are lots of questions coming on the chat and in the Q&A. Already have 12 questions. There are about 20 comments on the webinar chat. We'll address all of those in some way. But tell us, doing in CPA, what is the lift up in the average starting salary? So if you were a CA and you were working somewhere and you had a, let's say, £100 salary, I mean, by doing a CPA, what is the lift up you can have? What is the add-on salary increase? Of course, the long term. We just don't look at, we look at it from a learning, from being relevant, but also in terms of India is very value seeking. Or will it make sure that I get a better job which pays me more? That's the kind of questions coming.
Do you want me to make, anyone want to make a start on that from the
Yes, Ajit. Yes, Ajit.
Yeah, yes, so Ajit. I think, look, certainly from a US perspective, first and foremost, there's a lot of statistics in terms of the career impact of doing a professional qualification, and obviously in the US it's the CPA, and that you're talking literally over a career. It's I hear numbers of $300,000-400,000 plus over a lifetime of a individual, probably more than that. Within India, within other countries, the reasons why people do the CPA is differentiation. So you've got a great pool of qualified, great intelligent CAs. And that in itself, that's a hard achievement. They're worth a lot already. But what a CPA adds is that domain knowledge, that specialization. And because the supply of CPAs is so much lower compared to the demand, for that very reason, it's a classic economics. Demand outstripping supply means that the premium that a CPA is allowed to kind of charge for their talent and services is that much higher. I don't know what the number is in terms of the impact in terms of salaries in India itself. Maybe some of the colleagues on this.
I want to bring in Amit Sachdeva here. Amit, you are in the midst of, you work for a large corporation. So why don't you address this question on how does it enhance your earning capability?
No, I think that's a great question, Anurag. I'll probably address it slightly differently. If as a firm or we have to hire somebody where we need a CPA and we only get a CPA only CA and the person is not a CPA. So the difference between a CA plus CPA and only CA qualification in the same candidate, I would say there would easily be a compensation gap of 25%. So CPA can actually at a starting level give you a gap of 25% higher salary, and over a period of time, especially for the US headquartered companies, you also have an opportunity to become kind of a CFO or a head of the branch, because in a lot of roles, they would not take somebody who's not a CPA. For example, there are a lot of organizations, I've seen some of the most qualified people, they haven't got an opportunity to become a CFO because they were not CPAs. So you have to get that as a minimum qualification to become the CFO in some of these organizations. So it's a very, very, I would say at the start as well as various levels in the organization, this can both be financially as well as from an executive management perspective, very rewarding.
Thank you so much for giving very specific input and coming from you. It is very credible. At this point, let me bring in Mr. Anil Ahuja. Mr. Ahuja, you're based in Singapore, and so you have international perspective. Give us a sense of why are CPAs so much in demand, and what is your view on upskilling yourself with a CPA? You'll have to unmute yourself, Mr. Ahuja. Unmute is the second most used word of 2020, the first being COVID.
I thought the first will be mute.
First is COVID, sir.
Okay. No, thank you, Anurag. It's a pleasure to be on this panel. The logic for Southeast Asia and the rest of Asia is almost the same as it is for India, which Amit has explained in great detail. I actually wanted to take this opportunity, given that there are a lot of young professionals on this in the audience. I just wanted to say, based on what I've been hearing over the last 10-15 minutes, I think each one of you need to recognize a few things. One, that the world is changing around you very, very, very quickly. And fortunately, you are in a profession which is an accounting-based profession, which means that you have a barrier around you, which is a regulatory barrier. I mean, India is not going to stop requiring a chartered accountant from signing a balance sheet, and neither is the US going to stop requiring a CPA from signing a balance sheet for the US. So you have some protection in terms of your career. But if you look around you and you see the rapid change that is taking place, both from a technology as well as from the way people are reskilling, educating themselves, or just retooling themselves, the half-life of any skill, which probably used to be 25 years, is probably now 5 years. So unless you're learning a new skill or educating yourself up to the next level, you're actually missing a trick, because you could be left behind in a race which is just getting faster and faster. I mean, just look around and see what COVID itself has done to all of us. Suddenly working from home has become the norm, which basically means where you work from has suddenly become irrelevant. You don't actually have to live in Canada to work in Canada anymore. I mean, that was already proven with the shared service centers that have been coming up across the region. But now it is even more. It's even more in your face that you don't actually need to do that. So if you hold the qualification, I think it's a matter of time when a lot of these regulatory boundaries that we have been used to, which are boundaries of geography, boundaries of language, boundaries of culture, a lot of these boundaries are going to drop away when it comes to being measured against a skill set. And having a US CPA skill set added to your extremely fine education, which is already there, definitely puts you in a different league and a different position. And Amit has brought this up, Anurag has brought this up. If you're sitting there as a, if there is a promotion that has to happen and somebody has a chartered accountancy, Indian chartered accountancy, and a US CPA, it becomes very difficult for the guy on the other side of the table not to consider the fact that Tomorrow, if you need to be posted to another location, your acceptability will be much higher if you hold that extra degree, that extra qualification. And I guess plan for what is coming. I mean, we could go on about this stuff for a long time, but with IoT, with blockchain, with all these things, I mean, imagine distributed ledgers where your audit itself starts to become a very different function than what it is today. You don't have to do a stock checking in a warehouse because the warehouse checks the stock on its own. It's all kinds of stuff is coming. So please do not ever become static on your knowledge or your education, because keep reskilling and keep adding that skill to yourself, because that is the only way to stay ahead and remain relevant in this ever-changing world.
Thank you, Mr. Ahuja. Coming from you, you said the right thing. It's even applicable to me and all my colleagues that work in BW Businessworld. It is what you said, of course, resonates for the financial services domain, but it resonates overall with me. Mr. Ravi, we request you to unmute yourself, sir.
Yeah.
So Ravi, in your 4 decades career, you've seen many cycles. This is an unusual time. This is really a new abnormal. There's nothing normal about it. Tell us why you heard everyone. You heard Mr. Gupta, you heard Mrs. Aziz Saibji, you heard Mr. Ahuja, you saw Mr. Sachdeva's presentation. What is your view on upskilling yourself? What is your view on heading the CPA? You're also a large recruiter. You have a large KPO. You advise some of the biggest, businesses in India. For example, Max. And I can go on. We have venerable clients like the big four have. So, what is your view? Would you hire somebody who had a CPA plus a CA, or give us your sense of?
So first, let me start with one fact that globally there are, my figures may be here and there, but 75 lakh accounting professionals across various accounting professions like members in a population of 7.7 billion. So that is the number of accountants that are there. And that fact it is also another fact that we are moving from a very traditional accounting background where audit and assurance was important, maintenance of books was important. We are moving away to various streams of accounting, and the ecosystem itself has enlarged in a big way. The second point that I want to make is the regulators. The regulatory prescriptions across the globe is different, though we are trying to have a unified approach, but still there are differences in the regulatory approach. That is, so that makes CPA a very, very important aspect. Another thing that I would like to say, for example, regulatory, Basel 1, Basel 2, Basel 3, just coming to the banking sector. So from the year 2000 to what we have seen till 20 now, the regulatory compliance space has totally changed. And it is becoming more or less coming to uniformity, which means I should have equal knowledge of the US environment or a Singapore environment and the regulatory prescriptions that are there. The third thing which is very, very important and which is changing very, very radically is the cross-border transactions. So we are seeing cross-border transactions which make us very, very important for every one of us to actually know the other side. So your question first on whether CPA will add to Indian CA's sort of knowledge. Yeah,
knowledge definitely, but
employability. It certainly will. Maybe I'm tempted to do it myself at this thing that if Mr. Vinod Gupta advises me, I would like to be tempted to do that. And I would advise all the youngsters to do it because it was a gateway for many things. The first question, though, you can have the basic qualification of an accounting profession, but we need to harness our skills. For example, there is CFE, which is a step further. that is fraud examiners. Then there is forensic audit. Then there is information system audit, these are, which I have done, and I'm a CFE also. So and even insolvency requires specialized skills. So globally, what is going to happen is the skill sets are going to change very rapidly, and there is no stoppage. And Mr. Ahuja really mentioned about skill sets getting improved. It is so important because you are constantly, what we could learn in 25 years, we have to learn every 2 years and become, more, a new subject comes up to us. So I think we all are in a very challenging period. The next level where important for everybody, for any accountant, will be the cyber security. So a technical person, IT person will know everything about it, but the accounting knowledge person, compounded with or in complementing an IT person, can be a great winner. So these are new areas which will come in, and I think we have to live up to the expectations of everybody, because as clearly stated by the panelists, sitting in India, we can do a US audit anywhere, we can do it. And I think this is going to, cross communication, cross sort of knowledge is going to be very, very important. And more the KPOs which will come to India, which is coming to India, it is important that the US, CPA is going to be, or any CPA is going to be very important as we move forward. So my reading is it's a gateway for professionals. It can be a single degree for somebody, and it can be an augmenter for people who are already a chartered accountant. That's my
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi, for your opening comments. We'll come back to you. At this point, let me bring in Mr. Saurabh Banerjee. Saurabh, first of all, I'd request you to share the story of money. Why is money important? Why financial services, health is important? And then about the career. Mr. Saurabh Banerjee.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Anurag. Yeah, I'm going to give a different take to this whole thing. There is no doubt that upskilling is the way to go post-COVID. The need of finance professionals in whichever capacity, whether as an auditor or cyber security, tech-wise, Amit talked about it. Aziz talked about, a situation where audit of JP Morgan can happen in Gurgaon. So obviously, COVID has shown us tough times, but what has happened is that money is also scarce, and you need professionals to sort of take care of that in the best possible manner. So I'll just take a sort of philosophical take to the whole thing. Now, when we talk about accounting and finance, the first thing that comes to anybody's mind is money. And today, almost $3 trillion of money is being transacted. Money that you can't touch, money that you can't feel. So what is money? Is it trust? Is it an enabler? Is it an innovator? So apart from being a student of accounting, I'm also a student of history. I love history. So I studied a little bit, and I'll try to quickly tell you what my findings are in like 4 or 5 minutes. So the first evidence of money comes 3,000 years back. It was in Mesopotamia, where you had these clay tablets, right? And it said the bearer of the clay tablets would get, X amount of rice or grain or whatever it is. And then going back 500 years in the Inca civilization, where they used to mine a lot of silver, when the Spaniards went there and they, took the silver, they started making coins out of the silver. And then the transaction was that, you give the coin, and whatever is the value equivalent of the coin, you get that in return. So as things started growing, the business started growing, there was a need to lend. But, in the 12th century, where Christianity was at its peak, you could not lend without by charging interest, because that was not allowed. So how do you lend? So that's when the Jews came in northern Italy, and they said, they started living in a ghetto. That's the price they paid. And then the money lending started. So that was the first innovation in terms of money lending. But then we know that this loan sharks came into play, and it was not feasible. So how do you finance working capital? So again, in the 16th century, that is when the Medicis in Italy, in Florence and Venice, they said, okay, fine, let's use Fibonacci's formulas. Fibonacci was, as you know, is a mathematician in Italy. He said, okay, we will convert one currency into the other currency, right? And we will charge a commission. So that's not charging interest. Look at the innovation, right? So then they started doing business by currency exchange. And that's how the interest got covered. And that's how the banks came into play. That was the starting of the banks. Again, during the 16th century, Europe was in continuous turmoil. The Spaniards were fighting the Dutch, the English were fighting the French, and the governments, they did not have the money. So how do they do business? So what they did, they borrowed money from their own citizens, right? And that's how the bonds came into play. And the holder of the bond would get interest from the government, and they could actually liquidate the bonds and get money. So that's it. And today we talk about joint stock companies. We're all working in that environment. Now, how did that come into play? So again, going back into the 16th century, where, you know, there was the Europe used to trade a lot with Asia, and then the ships would sink, there were pirate attacks. So how do they de-risk? They said, okay, let's divide the risk by issuing shares to various shareholders. And that's how we, you know, sort of divide the risk. And that's how the joint stock companies came into play. So I find this extremely fascinating. So today, is money trust? Is money an enabler to business? Is it an innovator? Post-COVID, I think we are looking at a new world. I mean, whether you use technology, whether it is outsourcing, whether it is whatever. And I think it's very, very important that the finance professionals, in whichever capacity, as lenders, as bookkeepers, again, when you talk about trust, I also want to talk about corporate governance. Now, a recent study shows that two companies with similar businesses, one with a higher corporate governance, gets as much as 28% premium on valuation, right? So if you are a finance person and you and you upskilled through a CPA, your vision gets broadened. So there are a lot of things that you can do in today's world if you are a finance specialist, and CPA is the next level in terms of what you can do and achieve in the market.
Thank you so much, Saurabh, for giving that background and relating to how you need to be innovative about the skills you add, because the market is progressing. You know, there are new skills are being demanded. So you got to stay ahead of the game. Let me bring in our two other panelists who are an integral part of the offering, and they themselves believe in this concept. Let me bring in Samir first. Samir, your comments, why one should do it. Then I can bring Siddharth. Or Siddharth, you can go first. Then I can bring Samir.
Yeah, I can go first. Okay. Whoever unmutes first, I guess.
Yes. Go ahead, Samir.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with all the panelists have talked about, and I'll try to give my perspective of why one should do CPA and how it brings value. So I am myself an accountant. I'm a CA, and I'm a part of an accounting advisory team. So I do look at international gaps. I do look at US companies. I do work with people who stay in US, companies which are from US. So I have that practical experience. I can give you a real world scenario of how CPA can help. One thing is for sure that all education that you do is, one, it helps in upskilling yourself. Right? So when you start, you upskill yourself, and that's what education helps with. After that, once you start working, obviously all your learning is on the job, right? You learn a lot from what you work. As a professional, you learn there. What is the role of a degree? The degree is there to get you the right opportunity, right? And that opportunity comes to you when you have the right degree at the right time, right? So upskilling plus getting that opportunity, and that opportunity, how do we at let's say at Grant Thornton, how do we filter resumes? As resumes come to us, how do we filter? So when we have an opportunity where something, a gap conversion for a US company needs to be done, we would obviously give weightage to a person who has got a CPA degree, right? So from that perspective, all these, the US CPA degree does help you get that filtration across. So you actually jump that line and you cross that as a professional who is seen as a a person who can do US GAAP, or somebody who can audit in US, somebody who can do those kind of work. So that is the role of a degree, and I see both opportunities. One in India, where other panelists talked about the fact that there are BPOs, there are KPOs, there are situations where you have that environment and US companies come in and outsource work to India. The other situations we've seen that I see personally are more to do with advisory for US companies, and where people like me would obviously prefer people who have a CPA degree, who have practical experience, who understand the theory. So yes, we would. So there is definitely a value to that degree that adds, whether you are already a CA or whether you start as a CPA. So both situations are covered. As far as international opportunities are concerned, I would think that now again, without trying to compare any degrees, I would think that CPA, being a US degree, holds its own value. US is a country. It's not about the fact that while you could say that ACCA is more widespread in terms of number of countries that recognize it, the fact is US, being an economically strong country, has business opportunities everywhere. US businesses are in more places than anybody else's businesses. So you would have a lot of US companies in India, in China, in almost every part of the world. So that way,
yeah, they understand the value of CPA. They've
yes.
seen it in, so it's easy to, it's like a filter, if I may use, right?
Yes, yes. And so that's one. And of course, large firms do use that, do hire a lot of CPAs internationally and locally. While the economy, while everything is changing towards a remote working situation, but I'm sure it will come back, if not 100%, at least 50-60% to a situation where people will travel, people will migrate, people will work in different countries, and this degree does come in very handy when you do that. So that's what my take.
So thank you, Samir. We'll come back to you. This time I'll start with you and Siddharth. But Siddharth, let me bring you in. Being the last, I'm sure you'll add unique points. Sometimes you save the best for last. So Siddharth, your turn.
Sure. Thanks, Anurag. Very good evening to everyone. I'll try to keep it short because I can see a lot of a flurry of questions on the chat.
35 on the Q&A.
Yeah.
35
so
on the.
I really don't want to take away the meat of it, but I'll try to address maybe some of them while I speak. So I think looking at the questions, they're about qualifications, and I'm a CA. Should I do a CA plus CPA? Should I only do a CPA, etc., etc. I think one thing is for sure, success is really not a pizza. It's not going to come to you in 30 minutes. So each qualification will have its own USPs. Whether you do a CA or you do not have a CA, don't worry. I think international qualifications can still benefit both. So let me just bifurcate this for two sets of people. One is my student friends, who are still pursuing either graduation or have done graduation, are doing a job, or are already pursuing a CA in India. See, no qualification is going to take away anything from you. It will only add something, to your resume, to your profile, to your skill sets. So continue to do whatever you are doing, but think about it from this perspective that an international qualification has the potential to shorten your, academic runway significantly, and that will give you an opportunity to earn much earlier in your career. Many a times, students, I hear saying that it's very expensive to obtain international qualifications like a CPA or others. But I think one thing we must remember, that because the duration of these courses is shorter, whatever extra cost that you're incurring is actually going to be recovered quite easily in probably in 3 to 4 months after you qualify, and because you're earning salary as a professional, not as a a trainee or a graduate. As far as our CA friends are concerned, they have already gone through the grind. But as somebody just said, I think Saurav said that the world is changing quite significantly. India itself, if I talk only from an accounting perspective and spare my ignorance of other aspects because I am an accountant at heart. So India itself introduced, new accounting standards 3 years back. We call them Ind AS, which is aligned with IFRS. The global standards are also aligning together. Several standards in IFRS and US GAAP are also now being jointly developed by, the standard setting bodies. So if you have to learn the global standards any which way, why not add a qualification along with it? So even if you have to stay in India, you don't have to go anywhere. You will have to learn the global standards to be, to reskill yourself.
Beautiful point, Siddharth, you brought it. Beautiful point.
Yeah.
That's a question on the chat also. Shall I do CPA Canada? Shall I do CPA USA? If you did it in India, you can still get a job there remotely, or maybe in some cases physically when things are better. So, CPA is a CPA. It's a passport to financial services,
Yes.
Jobs. And Mr. Gupta, I want to ask you this, that while CAs can do it, what are the other professions that can do? I am a much below average. I'm in an MBA. Okay, I'm much below average in my qualification and in my acumen. But tell me, can an MBA do it? What are the other professions who can add on?
Yes, Anurag, there are more than 50 state boards in US from where you can do the CPA. So each state board has its own qualification norms, and you need 120 accounting credits for being eligible. So normally, a BCom student with MCom first year is normally eligible for 120 credits. And a BCom student with an MBA degree is normally again qualified to be able to appear for CPA. So I repeat, BCom with MCom, BCom with MBA, and third category is the students of chartered accountancy who are not able to pass the final examination. So in case you have cleared the CA intermediate examination, and make you eligible to appear for the examination. So what you need is 120 credits. So 120 credits you can easily get by having either 1, BCom MCom, 2, BCom MBA, 3, CA intermediate with a university degree. And even if you're a graduate, you can do a bridge course. Bridge course is for 9-12 months, and you get 30 credits for doing the bridge course, and you become eligible for CPA. So even a BCom student eligible for CPA by giving a bridge course of 1 year. And second question which I'm seeing, which is coming at my panel very frequently, is that by doing CPA US in Australia. So there's a MRA. MRA is the mutual
Recognition
between CPA US and CPA Canada. So once you have done CPA USA, by giving one examination of Canadian law of CPA Canada. Am I correct, Aziz?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I was just going to say, yes, you're correct.
And there's a MRA Australia.
Sorry?
And Australia, in case you have done CPA US, then you need to have a PR of Australia. If you have done CPA US, for becoming CPA Australia, you need to have a PR of Australia, and again 2 papers of local laws you need to clear. I think Aziz will be a better person to throw light on this. So Anurag, why don't we ask Aziz to explain all this?
Go ahead, Aziz. These are real questions that are coming in the chat. I just want to say that while Mr. Vinod Gupta and Mr. Aziz Taibji are answering this question, but you still need to be one-on-one. Please mail the VG Learning team. Please mail Shreya there. And she's already shared her email on the group chat, so you can get it from there. It's Shreya, SHREEYA at vglearningdestination.com. So you can mail her. Let me repeat, Shreya, SHREEYA at vglearningdestination.com. She can set up more one-on-one interactions. So I just wanted to announce that. Aziz, why don't you comment on the queries that are coming in?
And also, Aziz, we'd like you to comment at why Becker's is superior than other materials available in the market.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I used to watch all Boris Becker's matches when he used to play cricket or tennis. Okay, but sorry, sir.
That's the
Go ahead,
reason.
go ahead, Aziz. Please answer.
So I'll deal with the Becker question in a minute, but I think because there's such a, as you can see, such a lot of questions around, where CPA is relevant, US CPA is relevant. And there's a couple of points I want to make beforehand. First and foremost, this is really important, that for the people on this who are watching this, the audience who are watching this, looking to kind of enhance their careers, making the right decisions, you're all going to be future accountants, right? So it is so important that you do your due diligence. There are people on this panel who are going to give you great advice, but exactly as Dr. Butler said, please make sure that you get in contact with the DG Learning team, Ms. Shreya, all of those people, because they can really understand you as an individual, your own background, what do you want to do, all of those things, and give you very personalized counseling and service. So please make sure you take advantage of that. Now, going back to those kind of general questions, one is, why would you do the US CPA qualification if you're based in India? We talked about, a lot of people on this panel have talked about how so many US companies operating in India and all of those things, or Indian companies are servicing US entities, all of those things. Of course, that's paramount, because paramount is, you might well want to think that you want to do a professional qualification from a country outside of India and travel to that country. It's a great aspiration to have, but the reality is there's lots of decisions that you have to deal with when you're moving abroad. And when push comes to shove, the chances are you'll probably still be working in India, which is fine. But the point is, you'll have that international qualification. You'll still be able to service those international customers, clients, services, and whatever else. So it's important to understand that those qualifications, the US CPA has recognition in India itself. That's paramount. Absolutely, it has recognition in the US and other countries as well, but that's critical. Secondly, I think it was Samir. I think Samir, you mentioned the fact that the US, whether we like it or not, the fact is the US is still the largest capital market in the world. So the companies from there literally operate all across the world, and whether it's right or wrong, the point is they understand and recognize what a US CPA means. And that's what they're going to demand more often than not. Me personally, if I saw a resume or a CV from an Indian CA or from somewhere else, I understand what the value of an Indian CA is. I know what the hard work has gone in there. I know how difficult it is. But nonetheless, if you're a US company, they are going to gravitate towards a US CPA. We just have to accept it. It might well be in 5-10 years' time, the Chinese market growing is so much, you might want to do a Chinese CPA. I might not recommend it, but think about it. But at the moment, the US CPA, the US market is the biggest, and they kind of dictate what they want. The other points around how it's recognized in other countries around the world, I think, you were saying that they have a number of exactly MRAs, reciprocities is the word that's used with other accounting associations, whether it be Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Scotland, Hong Kong, major CA bodies around the world. So what that means is that your qualification is recognized and is on a par with those in those countries. So you have the comfort of being able to work there, operate there, and be licensed there. And it might well be in some of them you need to do an extra exam or whatever else because of specific tax regulations, insurance regulations, accounting regulations. But you have that recognition. But this is also really important for all of you wherever you are. It might well be that you need to be an Indian CA to sign off an audit report here in Delhi or Mumbai or wherever it is, fair enough. And that might be the case in Canada or elsewhere. But the point is, if you're going to be a CFO or any other senior positions within either the accounting firms or elsewhere, just that qualification alone, someone knows what you are. If you've done an international qualification like the US CPA, that benchmark is completely understood. So therefore you have that recognition and you have that value. I don't know, Dr. Batra, if that's helped answer some of your questions.
It does.
I would feel, yeah, it is absolutely right that I should just talk a little bit about Becker. And there's Becker have been in CPA training for over 60 years. They are probably one of the most long established training providers for the US CPA globally. Of course, certainly in the US, that's the kind of home market where the majority of CPAs are. Estimates are that we have done well, we have trained well over 1 million CPA candidates over those years. And I guess where does the pedigree, the credibility come from Becker? One is those number of candidates. And secondly, it's the organizations that trust Becker. All of the top firms within the US, all of them expect their employees to use Becker. One, because it helps them pass faster. It gives both the employee and the company itself a better rate of return because they know that they're going to pass quickly. They can get on and qualify and get on and do the work that's expected of them. And I think the other area is, the CPA, you're there to pass the exam, right? There's two things. There's domain knowledge, and secondly, you're there to pass the exam. What Becker is there to do is to make sure that you get those 3 letters and the value that brings to your career. Having said that, interestingly, I don't know if people have heard of, well, there's a special recognition for the top highest scoring people in the CPA exam every year. And for the past 14 years, over 90% of the individuals who receive that award are Becker students or students of Becker's partners. And the other really important thing about Becker is actually not Becker, but it's our partners. The likes, we're very, very choosy, particular in terms of the partners that we work with because our brand is so important to us, as you can imagine. And therefore, we're very, very picky, and we're very lucky, in India to have a partner of the caliber of VGLD and together with Grant Thornton, 2 great names and brands in India in terms of preparation, especially for the CA side. Everybody knows Vinod Gupta, sir, in terms of what he's done for the CA profession in India. And I have zero doubt whatsoever that will also be the case for all the future CPAs in India as well. So, 2 things. One, our credibility comes from the organizations that we've worked with for many years, the confidence they put in us. And secondly, it comes from the organizations that we're lucky enough to partner with around the world who make the most of our expertise and use their own expertise to make sure that you become what you want to be in extra quick time. That's the other important thing as well. To get this done as soon as you can, to get, as Mr. Siddharth said, the other key thing that you can do with qualifications like the CPA and others is really progress your career quickly. So it gives you that real step up and the power that brings to your own personal CV and resume to really take a springboard on your career. So that's me. I hope I've helped answer some of those questions. There are a lot of questions, but as I said, I just want to reiterate one thing, please do your due diligence. This is your career. You're going to be spending a lot of time studying. You've already done it, many of you, when you've done your CA. You're going to be spending money, hard-earned money, and you want to make sure that you get that return in the best possible way for that investment that you're putting in. So make sure you do your due diligence, make the most of counseling that organizations like VGLD, GT do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta. I hope you address those. And to people who are cynical people don't do anything in life. So stay cynical. That's your responsibility is to make yourself successful. Only by being informed. Look at the credibility of the people on this panel. Mr. Gupta, look at Beckers, look at Grant Thornton, look at Ernst & Young, in the individual credibility. Samir, Siddharth, Mr. Ahuja, Saurabh, Mr. S. Ravi. I mean, I don't think, rest, we can only give you information, counsel you. Whether you want to take it or not is your decision. That's about your life. And I'm not an expert on financial services, but I can tell you, I feel the need of adding skills to myself. They could be technology related. They could be financial and accounting related. They may be doing a course on mindfulness. It may be doing a course on personal growth lab. It may be about, some technical aspects. So what the experts are saying is absolutely true. Cynical people never build anything. So your choice is to look at people who build their own careers and are now helping people with their careers. So Mr. Gupta, I just want to ask you, this question came up on the last webinar. That's a lot question coming a lot of time. It's from Idris MK. How can a CPA degree help a practicing chartered accountant in India who's not opting for employment? So we can get Mr. Ravi to answer, you to answer, Mr. Ahuja to answer, Saurabh to answer. Gupta ji?
I think someone from Grant Thornton or Ernst & Young will be able to answer it better.
Okay. Siddharth and Samir. Siddharth and Samir.
Yeah, I can take a shot at that. I think it's a very valid question. See, as a professional, we should see our job is to ease the task of the clients as far as compliance with regulations, accounting, auditing, with their ability to access capital markets, etc., is concerned. Samir mentioned that US is, and continues to be the largest capital market. As things stand today, Indian companies really find a tough time listing in the US, and there is a handful of companies actually which are actually listed on the US. The best of the best are there, but there is a change in regulation in the offing. You might hear probably in the next month or so, or a couple of months, whereby the government is going to allow the companies to directly list outside of India. And US definitely, by virtue of its scale, is going to be one of the markets where investors are going to come from. So whether you are an auditor, whether you are a tax advisor, whether you are a financial management specialist, you will need to have the knowledge about US regulations, their compliances, their standards, to be able to work along with those companies. India is a startup hub today. We have got startups coming at the snap of a finger today. Most of these companies are going to raise some sort of capital very shortly. We're already seeing actually in the last 6 months of the lockdown itself how much FDI has actually flown into the country. Now imagine if those restrictions were to be lifted, how much money can flow in more and how much demand for professionals is going to increase. So whether you are a practicing CA or whether you are associated with any of the large firms, I think it is going to be about skill sets which are going to be required, and India is definitely going to be the one which is going to supply. I think Aziz talked about how astronomical growth they are seeing in terms of the people doing CPA in India, and that is precisely the reason. I don't know whether I answered the question completely, but some part of it. But yeah, happy to hear from
Samir, if you want to add to this, Mr. Malik.
Yeah, I think I agree with Siddharth. I have nothing else to add, but honestly, it is a recognition, and when you do business, whether you are in your own practice or whether you are in your whether it's an employment, that recognition is seen. Of course, you can't be a local Indian practitioner only working with Indian companies, only working with small Indian businesses, and expect the CPA to be a value add there. It may actually upskill you. Of course, it is a skill set. It upskills you, but as a degree, it does carry a recognition value that will come in when you have a business relationship whether you are in your own business or working somewhere, that recognition will come. So that's what I would say.
Thank you so much. Let me also bring in.
I'm gonna add something to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Ahuja, and then Mr. Sachdeva and Mr. Esra and Saurabh.
So I think if somebody is a practicing CA, chances are that the person is reasonably entrepreneurial and has built a business of his own. And I respect those kind of individuals because it is a very hard road to take, and the benefits or the rewards can be very, very exciting as well. Now, from having only a potential to service Indian customers, you suddenly add the potential to serve US customers. What you can make of it is the sky's the limit. Honestly, I mean, if you just said, all of us have friends, relatives, colleagues in the US. If you just started doing their tax reporting sitting in India, that could become a very valuable business stream. I mean, if you're a practicing CA and you can add a US CPA business to your own practice, you've just opened up another huge market. So I don't see why you would hold back from something like that.
Mr. Sachdeva?
No, thanks, Anurag. And just extending to what Mr. Ahuja said. So again, like India, US has got a huge bid market, because when we talk about especially the big four or the larger GCCs, that's primarily, like I said, the Fortune 500 or the Fortune 2000 companies. But there's a huge bid market. So that is probably an underserved or not served as a market from a CPAs outside of US. They're also looking for both a great talent. Obviously, the cost arbitrage is another factor which they are looking for. For the practicing chartered accountants, I think the bid market is a great space to get into. And then there are adjacent services, because once you start to serve as a CPA to them, you can also help them on the accounting services. You can also help them on the internal audit services. So there are a lot of other adjacencies. So it's basically opening a huge additional market for you, where you can actually use your skill and actually add those clients to your portfolio.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ravi?
My view is it's not a straight road. So one has to actually, if one has to actually look at this, one has to plan their own career and their own aspiration. It is very important. You have to fit this in your own aspiration. If there is aspiration to go global, then it is different. If somebody wants to just remain in the Indian domain and be there, for example, in insolvency professional, a chartered accountancy with insolvency professional, would not like to go out of it because they are confined to that. So it also depends on the aspiration of the person and how the person is going to take the future growth into their own firm. For example, if I have to look at 5 years ahead, I may like to have some CPAs with me. So it depends on the perception and the vision of everybody. Similarly, I must tell you about the career of people. Some people would like to take a particular path. For example, if there is an insurance company and they want to go through the insurance route, then, and there are international investments in the insurance, this thing, the CPA will become very important for them. So it all depends on how one is planning their path. But it is always good, because what happens, you are hedging yourself. You have got one more degree to yourself and one more qualification to yourself. And when you can strike a good relationship with somebody and some client, that is what is very, very important. One should be prepared. Qualification won't harm you. But I think that it's not a straight road. We have to actually work through it. And if somebody wants to acquire a qualification, they should look at the next few steps as they go forward. That is my take on it. It is not that you get a qualification and you're there. So you have to, this is especially for the younger lot, actually you will have to work the next few steps as we go forward. That's my
God bless
take.
you, Mr. Ravi. You know, coming from somebody who's so successful and respected like you and Mr. Ahuja, it means a lot. Saurav, your take?
Yeah, I'll say it from my personal experience. Many years back, almost 20, I used to work with one of the big fours in the global capital market group. Though I'm a chartered accountant, I did not do my CPA, but I was trained to get Indian companies listed overseas, especially in New York, and convert Indian GAAP into US GAAP. In fact, it is this knowledge that led me to a job in NDTV. You talked about my NDTV experience. In fact, at that time, NDTV wanted to get listed overseas, and I did all the work. And so though I did not get the degree, I wish I was a part, either an audience or a panel. So at least I probably would have gone and got the degree. But what helped me really was the knowledge, because I studied US GAAP, and that knowledge really helped me in my career when I was raising money overseas. We raised a lot of money. It really helped me because I understood the laws of the country. It is more broad-based, it is more international, and times have now changed. It's a smaller world, it's a flatter world that we are looking at. So when I moved from the corporate to being a venture capitalist, again it helped me, because when you're looking at companies both in India and abroad, the knowledge of taking two different accounts and then ensuring that it's apples with apples, and you're making all the changes, and that upskilling is really which helps you in life. It is not just a job. Now an entrepreneur, this whole knowledge is what you use as a tool. It gives you an analytical mindset. When you do MIS, I think a knowledge of US GAAP helped me to show numbers in a much better format. And then MIS is not just a management information system, it is a management intelligence system. It just helps you to
I love the word management intelligence system.
Yes. Well, like I said, I wish I was either a listener or a panelist. I would probably have gone and taken a CPA degree. Maybe, who knows, I will go and get it. There's no age to learn. So yeah.
Anurag,
Mr. Gupta.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So there are 2-3 questions which are coming from a lot
I
of.
can see. I don't know which ones to take, which one not to take.
Okay.
I'm glad you intervened.
Let me take 3 questions on your behalf. You can take some rest.
Yes.
So
I'm less here also, sir.
2 questions are addressed to Mr. Aziz. One is that the AICPA is holding the examination in India this December. So how do you see that? Will this trend continue for the next year also? So Aziz, this is the first question to you. Whether AICPA questions, the examinations, will continue to be held in 2021 or not? Second question is that Becker's, your company, has suddenly increased the price from 1st of September. And India is very much affected by COVID. So students and participants are requesting that Becker should take a lenient, or whatever you say, view for that, especially for India. I'm not saying for our learning partners, it's for everyone in India. Yeah. So these are the 2 questions to you. And third question, I think Mr. Anil Ahuja can answer, that is coming again and again, that by being a US CPA, how do I become CPA Canada and CPA Australia? So Aziz, you can start with the 2 questions.
I shall do. Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I'll take the latter one first, which should be difficult, but it's the easiest one actually, about the price. 2 things. One is, it's not actually an increase in price in 1st of September. It's a reversion to price, because we did have that kind of special promotion on the COVID side for a couple of months. But why it's very easy to answer is because as of, I think, 2 days ago, we have, in discussions with all our partners in India, your team especially, Vinod sir, we have reinstated that discount, which our partners can use.
And Aziz, yes, I'm interrupting. Indians like discount and everything.
Yeah. So this is important. The word discount is it's not the right thing. This is basically an understanding and appreciation of exactly that, the situation that we're all in. You know, we are all in this situation that there's so much uncertainty going on. We don't know in terms of when the economy is going to pick up again and those type of things. So it's really just to hold our partners' hands, help you hold our students' hands, and make sure that there's something that we can do with doing our part. So again, please contact the VGLD team in terms of understanding what that discount is and how we're supporting it. But we have just reinstated that. So Vinod sir, you're probably aware anyway, but that has happened.
Thank you.
So please take advantage of it. You know, this is something, you know, we understand the complex, you know, we're all in this together, right? This is, you know, this is something which no one could possibly have imagined. And no one quite knows when it's going to be back to normal. So for the time being, this is our little bit to help. You know, there are other things we're doing in terms of, you know, having, you know, free content and free things which, you know, we'll share, and you can have access to that via VGLD and our other partners. But this is one thing for sure. So hopefully that's a little bit of a tick in the box on that straight away. But take advantage of it, because it is not something that we can do forever. You know, we're all businesses, and we need to kind of, you know, have our own kind of commercial terms and all of those things and business models. But this is something we think is the right thing to do, and we want to do it. And it's our pleasure to do it, you know, more importantly. To your other question about the CPA exam, unfortunately, I wish I could wear a CPA hat on and give you a firm answer to this. But I think, look, one thing is for sure. There is, you know, the level of demand for the CPA exam, as I said earlier, as we all recognize earlier, has been increasing exponentially over the last 3-4 years, especially in India. And that was the reason why they wanted to have the exams this last year in India. Now, as you can all imagine, I don't think anyone really appreciated what 2020 was going to end up like. But I think having the prospect of future CPA aspirants having to travel to the US or to the Middle East, given these circumstances, the logic would suggest that those exams are going to continue in India next year. I cannot confirm that for sure. We, as well as other organizations, are trying to kind of get that confirmation to you as soon as possible from the IICP themselves. But certainly logic dictates, with the demand that's growing and the concerns around travel and unnecessary travel, all of those things, the logic is there. Hopefully it'll happen soon. And be assured that Becca will make sure that you, as well as our partner, first and foremost, our partners know exactly when that date is, when it's announced, and as long as it, and when it will continue to. So I don't know the answer right now. I expect it will continue, but watch this space.
Thank you, Aziz. You said what, Mr. Gupta. At this point, I want to ask, what is the course price from VG Learning? If you can share that.
See, I think this, me and Siddharth will jointly answer. Siddharth, why don't you also come? So we and Grant Thornton, and of course Beckers, and the technology partner AT Tuition. So 4 have come together to give the best. So our prize is not only the Beckers material or the coaching. There are 4 elements to it. One is the evaluation. So evaluation is a very difficult process to let a student know whether he's eligible or not. We have a team of CPAs who does the eligibility test, whether you are eligible or not. So this is a part of the course fees. Secondly is we have the best of the faculties coming from Grant Thornton, and the faculties have been selected with the great accuracy, and all the faculties, Siddharth, are you there? I believe have
there, sir.
Years or more experience.
Absolutely.
And the GT Learning partner is personally looking in the selection of the faculties. Third is the query resolution, that the query are being resolved by the GT faculties. And they're given various options like email, WhatsApp group, direct phone facility, and all those things. And fourth, and the most important part is that for the students who are enrolled with us, we offer a free license assistance. So I think we can tell you the fees. The fees for the entire process is 96K plus GST. And we do not offer any discount. And rest, I think Siddharth could take up.
Sure, sir. So I think I'll just add one fifth element, to what you said, and that's where I think any professional services firm would come with, and that's about employment opportunities. I think there are a few people asking about, is there any support around that, or how do we really get to that? So besides the elements for which, so to say, you're being charged that 96,000 plus GST for the course, there is also an element that you are associating yourself with a professional services organization, which will not only bring faculty with a lot of care and with a lot of selection criteria, but also an access to professionals whom you could consult with, to counsel yourself, to get some career advice, as well as of course, if the candidates are good, and I think I would encourage Sameer and Amit, who are also from again large professional services organizations. I think all of us are hungry to hire competent, well qualified people always. I don't think there is ever a door closed for them. So definitely I wouldn't say there is a direct employment guarantee scheme that we have, but definitely if you are good, if you are qualified and you are competent, then the door shall always remain open.
I can just confirm that. Definitely for one, we can promise our faculty and people who have practical experience and mentors who have practical experience in this industry to be always available. And also the fact that as Siddharth mentioned, professional services firms are always in need of hiring good people. And considering that we will be, our trainers, our people, our training teams will be closely working. Sometimes we do, spot people there, and it does work. So absolutely, it is an opportunity to get to know you for us, and for you to get to know us.
Sorry, I think it's worth clarifying that the Becker content is fully available through this package as well. The Becker content, the Becker videos, the Becker product is available as part of this overall fee that is being charged. And one other thing that I have seen, which is a big differentiator when compared to some of the other providers, is that you have people with practicing experience who explain the concepts and who train you, which is very different from somebody who has a pure teaching background, teaching or reading from a book or explaining something, which is from, rather than just getting a pure bookish knowledge, you get a more practical application oriented knowledge when you have a GT faculty teaching you, because these guys have got real world experience in addition to the theoretical knowledge that is being imparted.
Thank you, Mr. Ahuja. At this point, Mr. Gupta, let me take closing comments from everyone. I think we answered the breadth in depth. And let me start with Mr. S. Ravi first. Mr. Ravi, your closing comments on why CPA from VG Learning and Becker partnership with GT matters and 88. Mr. S. Ravi.
So I would first of all, the knowledge that I have gained by listening to all of you, that has been immense, because certainly what I have learned here, I can pass it on to the younger generation, and I feel qualification is a window to many opportunities. And that is the right people who can give you the right advice. And I was just listening to Mr. Vinod Gupta, who really gave the steps. So what we really require, and from Mr. Malik also, the steps that are so important, for a young aspirant to make. I think partners, the right people, and the right window, that is most important for anybody to go in. That's my comment. And everybody, whoever is an aspirant, those who want to go forward, please pause, think, and evaluate what you want in the next few years. And P. Gupta can actually counsel them, take them forward, help them. He's been teaching for so many students come to me. My articles come to me who have attended his classes and successfully become chartered accountants. So there is a track record available for everybody to see. So I think we should take the right people with us, and the young aspirants must actually look forward for guidance and counseling. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Mr. Saurabh Banerjee, your final word. You'll have to unmute yourself. While some of us are trying to unmute the Indian economy, you may have to unmute yourself.
Yes. So I think in one sentence, I would say, think global, act local. This global degree is going to give you a lot of knowledge and expertise and exposure. And why act local? Because India is the land of opportunity, whichever way you look at it. Consumption, thought arbitrage, talent arbitrage, cost arbitrage, whichever way you look at it. So this is what this degree is going to do to you.
Thank you, Saurabh, for being so nice. Samir, your final word.
Well, I would finally make a sales pitch and say why we are better. And
go ahead, do that.
Yeah, so we are better because it's a very unique partnership. The experience of VG sir of so many years of teaching, and how he approaches the students, how he spends time with his students to make them understand, and the practical experience of Grant Thornton's trainers. I think that will be a very, very good combination, and I'm sure the students will benefit with that. And that's our key KRA, I would say. And so it's amazing partnership. That's what I would ask students to.
Okay, Siddharth, your final comments.
Yeah, I'll not make a sales pitch. I think Samir has already done that. But what I would say is that as far as qualification is concerned, any qualification, any international qualification, that is going to be an absolute must, whether you add it on to your existing one or whether you do it as a fresh qualification. There is a lot of thrust on bringing foreign companies to India, things like Atmanirbhar Bharat or vocal for local, and all of these. I mean, some of us think they are mere slogans or campaigns. I think they actually work on the ground many a times, and we are already seeing India is going to become an alternative investment destination. And when that happens, eventually, 5, 10, 15 years down the line, I think you will need to have a qualification which is global, even though you're working local. So I think to that extent, I echo what Saurabh just mentioned.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ahuja, your final word.
Yeah, the world is flattening faster than we can imagine. So, get prepared to take advantage of the global opportunity in addition to the local opportunity. Why limit ourselves to what we can do with the local qualification? Let's go out there and grab all the business that we can from the rest of the world as well.
Thank you, Mr. Ahuja. Mr. Vinod Gupta, your final word before I close with.
So my final words, first of all, a big thanks to Mr. S. Ravi, who has put in so much high words for me. Secondly, I'll say that the kind of trust which people have in our team, VGLD, GT, Beckers, and institution, we will keep up to the trust which people have in us. And lastly, thank you, Anurag, and to your entire team who was busy till last night, I know, till 11:30, from morning 9 to 11:30. And I think I made you awake at 12 in the noon. And so thank you very much for the efforts.
Thank you for your trust, sir. It's an honor and a privilege. We don't.
And I'll only promise that the trust people have in us, we'll keep up to it.
Thank you. Final word, Aziz. Mr. Aziz Taibji, you have the final word because you are the principal and it's your degree that we bring to India. When I say we, I mean this collaborative partnership between VG Learning, 88 Tuition, Grant Thornton, and the Becker.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Again, I just want to reiterate what what an honor it is to be part of this fantastic panel here. Very esteemed colleagues. Great to be there. I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into getting everyone together across India and all the panelists and all the audience. I think, you know, the questions you've asked are absolutely
like
right.
This would get an award for number of questions. 40
Yes.
questions on Q&A, 81 on the chat. And I want to say what Shreya is saying on the chat. All the questions will get answered. The email ID is there. They've been noted. So don't worry about the questions. They will get addressed. Mail Shreya at VG Learning. Her email ID is there. And they will get addressed because you can do that much in that time. You try to address broad questions. Your one-on-one counseling and hand-holding will happen one-on-one. You'll get phone calls. Leave your email and mobile with Shreya at vglearningdestination.com and the VG Learning team will address your queries. So just want to thank all our panelists. I want to thank our audiences for being so involved and asking the relevant questions. I just want to end by saying that the best way forward is to invest in yourself. It's an investment that always pays.
Anurag.
Yes.
Special thanks to Amit Sachdev also.
Yes, Mr. Sachdev, I tend to forget you. It's because I'm groggy, so please forgive me. It's only for that reason. I didn't sleep well last night, and I still got up, and so my apologies if I missed you, though no other intent. So thank you, Amit, for the beautiful presentation, which set the context right, which set the expectation right, and you put it beautifully, and you did it in a beautiful way. So thank you, Amit, for doing it. So invest in yourself is what I'd say. It's the best investment, and learning and growing through courses like the CPA will definitely take you a notch above in your career. Thank you. God bless you. Good evening. Keep reading Businessworld on businessworld.in. Keep reading BW Education on bweducation.com. God bless you. Thank you. Good evening. All the best.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good to see you all. Congratulations, BG sir. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.